Hi, my name is Brent Brandow. I'm an unpaid intern here at Global Knowledge. This is my first big break. I'm here with Justin Valletta from Citrix. Welcome to Tech Talk. Justin's going to talk with us a little bit about Citrix, what they've got going on, all the new cool stuff. Welcome.
All right,
Justin.
thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah.
As we go, we're going to have some questions coming in from Twitter, from Facebook, YouTube. So as those questions come in, we'll blindside Justin with them as we go.
Excellent.
So I guess just to get things rolling, can you talk a little bit about Citrix, what you guys do?
Yeah, so Citrix has been a company for about 30 years or give or take a few. Probably most famous for our virtualization business, publishing applications through all the way from the MetaFrame days or WinFrame days to XenApps and Desktop, now called Virtual Apps and Desktops. But we also have a super robust networking business. It's probably about half of our business these days. It's through NetScaler or the application delivery controller products.
Cool. So can you talk to us a little bit about Citrix Workspace Platform and the Citrix Workspace App? Those are things we're hearing about a lot here.
Right.
So yeah, interested
Right.
to hear.
So Citrix Workspace Platform. Let's actually back up a little bit, just take a little bit of a higher overview. When we're talking about the Workspace Platform, Workspace itself is an aggregation of existing Citrix technologies. So we have the virtualization side of things, we have files, and endpoint management like your phones and your mobile devices. When we're talking about the Workspace Platform, it is the Citrix-hosted or cloud-hosted infrastructure that kind of powers the whole workspace. So the management interfaces, your databases, your licensing servers, everything else is what the Workspace Platform is. The Workspace App is how you interface with that platform, how you get your applications delivered to you, how you get your files delivered to you. And then that's going to be spanning across any device.
Gotcha. So I know you're a sales engineer, you're also a systems engineer. I know you probably get hit with questions from all over the place on a daily basis. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you use the Citrix Workspace platform and app for the secure delivery of SaaS and web spaces?
Yeah, so what Workspace is, when we're talking about combining technologies, traditionally Citrix technologies have been siloed. You had XenApps and Desktop, you had Zen Mobile or endpoint management, you had ShareFile, you have NetScaler, right? And so what Workspace is trying to do is unify all of those things. And so when we're talking about application delivery, primarily, or just the workload delivery to your end users or your employees or contractors or whoever is consuming the technology, we use the Workspace app to combine one interface with your applications, with desktops if you need desktops, and files all into the same window, basically. So you go on, sign into Workspace, you put in your domain credentials or single sign-on or whatever. You get in, and you can launch any application if it lives in your data center, if it's a SaaS app, because a lot of folks are using SaaS apps. We see the industry really going towards subscription model SaaS apps these days, which means that you're relinquishing some aspect of control to that vendor. If I use Workday, or I use Salesforce, or there's a zillion SaaS apps, right? I'm giving my ability to control portions of environments to that vendor. So what Workspace is trying to do is you sign into Workspace, you have one place to go, you have one set of credentials, you can get to all of your internal, external applications or SaaS applications, you can launch desktops, you can grab your files from there. And so the benefit for your end users is they don't have to jump around to a million different places, but your benefit for admins is you have one centralized location where you can administrate everything.
Oh, that's fantastic. So how do mobile apps fit into this?
Got it. So the classic Citrix story is any device, any network, any app, generally. So when we're talking about mobile devices, if you have, let's say the Office suite on your phone, well, if I download corporate email to my phone, and I open an attachment in a native application, I have now cross-pollinated that app with potentially sensitive information, whether it be protected health information or just corporate sensitive information that we don't want to share. And so what we do is we create an encrypted container on that mobile device, and then we can wrap an application, say, any SaaS application or mobile deployment, even your own internally made mobile apps. We can wrap them in a secure bubble, essentially, and then launch them in an encrypted container on that device. So we can provide a consistent experience across, the workspace on your desktop or Chromebook or mobile phone or whatever it is. But then we can kind of go a step further and create an encrypted container on that mobile device so that if your employees want to bring their own iPhone or they want to bring their own Android or Windows phone or whatever it is, then they can, right? And they can't cross-pollinate between, their personal stuff and the company-owned stuff.
Cool. All right, so we actually have our first question here coming in from the Twitter sphere.
All right.
So how are files handled in Citrix Workspace?
Got it. Okay, so Citrix ShareFile is the file platform, essentially, the solution that Citrix has for handling data. So basically, like we kind of indicated before, in Workspace, there are applications, there are desktops, and there are files. Inside the workspace, we can click on a file, and it'll launch in a published application out of your data center, or it'll download to the local device, depending on how you configure this. The files themselves are either stored by Citrix, right, encrypted at rest and in transit. You can also store them yourself, right? So if you would rather have them stored on premises, we host the platform, kind of harkening back to the Workspace platform. We host the platform, but if you want to host the data itself and they click on a file, it connects to a server that you manage, you can do that too, right? And so it's just another way that we can provide that consistent experience across all these different devices and networks and everything, to make sure that we're at the end of the day really just trying to drive productivity. And so from a compliance perspective or from an IT operational security policy perspective, you can have your files wherever makes sense for you. If you want to put them in the cloud, you want to put them on premises, or you want to mix of both, or in a colo somewhere, absolutely. You can do that as well, right? So that's basically it for ShareFile.
No, that's cool. So not I, but someone has a question. I have a Citrix receiver today. How do I transition to the Workspace app?
Got it. Okay, so Workspace app has actually replaced Citrix receiver. If you're familiar with our virtualization side of things, the way that you would connect to a virtual desktop or a virtual app is through Citrix receiver. Well, Workspace app has now replaced receiver. It's fully backwards compatible. You just update it. Totally fine. But the Workspace app is also going to have some additional capabilities once the rest of the environment gets upgraded. So as far as any concern about upgrading to Workspace app, or is it going to cause problems in the environment or anything like that? No, it's totally fine.
Okay. Can the Workspace be customized?
Yeah. So if you need to brand Workspace similar to the way you would brand like Storefront in the virtualization days, apps and desktop kind of stuff. You can brand the authentication experience. You can customize the app look and name, as well as like the Workspace interface, right? And more customizations coming down the road. This stuff is brand new.
Okay.
But yeah, you can at least customize it with like your company logo and
funny little memes. Flying
yeah.
testers.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Oh, that's the most important.
Yeah.
Thing. Yeah. So another question coming in here. What identity providers can I use?
Really, almost anything you want. Any federated identity provider. So the most popular ones are probably going to be like Azure AD, Okta. You might have to introduce FAS, which is the Federated Authentication Service. We can talk about that more in a little while. But yeah, it's nearly any federated internet provider you want to use. It's totally fine.
Cool. And so here, Workspace Intelligence kind of tossed around a lot. What is meant by Workspace Intelligence?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, so this is not even out yet. Workspace Intelligence is what Citrix kind of views as the future of Citrix themselves, right? So there's not a tremendous amount of information about Workspace Intelligence except for what we know already at least is it will learn how you normally work. It's machine learning and analytics. So it's basically statistics, right? So when you have, it's also, I'm jumping around too much. So it's workspace analytics going, okay, where do you normally log in from? What device do you normally log in from? What IP do you normally log in from? What is the time of day that you normally log in? What applications do you normally use? What, how long do you spend in these things? Like, we're just collecting tons of metadata about how this person works to ultimately help them automate their own tasks. So it's an integration with SaaS apps on top of that. So we're going to learn, Brent, how do you normally work? Where do you normally work from? What do you normally log in from? To one, help protect you, right? So if you normally log in from here, right, at the Global Knowledge location.
Global Knowledge Tower is what
right, yes, the ivory towers of global knowledge. If this is where you normally log in from, and then 20 minutes later you're logging in from New York City or from California or from Russia or China or something, well, what's going on, right? So we can accommodate for things like the classic impossible traveler scenario. But beyond that, if you use SaaS apps or on-premises applications, we have integrations. We're going to launch later this year with 100 of them. Integrations with things like Workday, all the just super popular SaaS applications, at least at first. And what's going to happen is somebody requests time off. Instead of you having to go into that app and approve it or reject it or whatever, or somebody submits an expense report, instead of you going into the SaaS app itself to do anything, you'll have like a little Twitter feed, just like these questions are coming in, right? And it's going to say, hey, so-and-so has requested time off, click here to approve it. Or so-and-so has an expense report that you need to check out here, click on this. Or, hey, you have this task for a meeting, did you follow up with this person? It's just little ways that we can bump productivity and make the employee's job easier or more productive or just less complex. Instead of going into all these different locations, you just stay within the workspace and it just takes care of that for you. So it's not so cumbersome to go to all these different solutions, because that's what the SaaS apps are really, at least in my opinion, the function of SaaS apps is they can do one thing really well. That's why you bought it, right? Or that's why your company bought it. But having to go over to that one thing and then, spend 5 minutes logging in and finding what you're supposed to do and then completing that action and then going to something else, it's cumbersome, right? And so people are changing the way in which they work through the adoption of things like SaaS technology. And that's what we're trying to go hand in hand with is essentially, help automate that and then provide intelligence for the admin staff to say, hey, if you want to create a policy that if ransomware is detected in the files, for instance, then in Citrix files, then disable that user. Send a notification email to an admin distro list. You don't need to have eyes on glass 24 hours a day. You can just go ahead and kind of trust the analytics to do what they're supposed to do, and let the policies take care of everything else.
Okay. Well, you have a ton of certifications, don't you?
Yes. Yeah.
So, would you talk a little bit about
what doors they've opened up for you?
Yeah.
Well, this one for sure. Yeah, getting to come down here and talk to you guys. So I hold the Citrix Certified Professional in Networking, an associate only in virtualization, believe it or not. The ShareFile Cert, the Professional in Mobility, which is that mobile device encrypted container kind of stuff they were talking about. Citrix Cloud, Virtual Apps and Desktops on Microsoft Azure. And the biggest thing is, a lot of times when you see or you hear about these technologies at least, they seem super big, bad, ultra sophisticated and complex, impossible to understand. Only the super nerds of the world are gonna know this stuff. And really, when you just go to a certification class, it kind of just pulls the curtain back, and it's just like, this isn't so bad. people are the ones that design these things, and they're made to be approachable, even though it might seem super complex and sophisticated from the outside, and sometimes they are. But from a general perspective, you're even if you don't get certified, just taking the class is extremely beneficial, right? Because if you can learn 2 things that save you a little bit of time per day, you're going to be saving the company money, you're going to be saving yourself time and everything else to be able to do your job more effectively. Specialization, you make yourself way more valuable, right? If we're talking about, people on the chopping block or whatever, then if you're specialized and you can do something that not a lot of other people can do, then that just makes you that much more valuable.
So you have another question coming in here. What is a micro app?
Got it. So the micro app inside of the workspace or the intelligent workspace, the micro app is what is going to be talking to those software as a service applications. So the micro app is what goes out, essentially connects our Workspace Platform API to whatever other API it is on the SaaS app side. So for Workday, for instance, because I just keep talking about Workday, the micro app is what goes out to Workday and says, hey, give me the information about these particular tasks, notifications, time off, approvals, whatever it is, right? So, sorry.
You're so excited.
Yeah, I am. I'm pumped up. But yeah, I mean, the micro app is kind of what's the go-between between the Workspace Platform and whatever SaaS app we happen to be talking about.
Okay, cool. So what types of devices and operating systems will support the Workspace Intelligence?
Anything.
Okay.
So it's really the same, classic Citrix story. We want to do the intelligent workspace on your mobile device, on your Chromebooks, on your laptops, on your fat clients, on your thin clients, whatever it is.
Okay.
So it's going to be same really across the board, right? That we want to, allow and help IT drive a consistent user experience. So if somebody, hey, I want to work off of my, Chromebook or my MacBook or whatever it is, then go for it. Yeah, totally fine. But you don't have to sacrifice security to be able to do that, and it's the same thing on the cloud side. If you want to put workloads in Azure or AWS or Oracle Cloud or Google Cloud or whatever, or on-prem somewhere on a colo somewhere, you can do that too, right? You can mix your workloads. It's really just about, not having to sacrifice security or experience, and being able to choose what's best for the delivery of that workload.
Okay. So we have time for one more question, and obviously there are a lot of questions around the Workspace Intelligence.
Right.
So they want to know how does this integrate with other platforms?
Got it. Okay, so initially you're going to be able to push notifications to things like Slack and Microsoft Teams, but yeah, I mean, more integrations are coming. This stuff isn't out yet. It's slated to be like Q4 this year. But yeah, at least at launch, it's going to be Teams and Slack are going to be the big ones for sure. And those are probably the most widely used anyways, which is why they're prioritizing those.
Right. Makes perfectly good sense. Well, Justin Valletta, thank you for being here. Justin, again, sales engineer, systems engineer, all-around fantastic person. We appreciate you being here.
I appreciate it.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention to all of our viewers that we do Citrix training here at Global Knowledge. So, give us a shout.
Yeah, check it out. There's some new classes from what I understand, and yeah, some really exciting stuff. Thank you again for having me.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.